All right, folks. Welcome back to Stream Catchers. Your handsome hosts are back. I am AB along with Jack. Jack, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. How are you, AB?
Feeling good, feeling great. We are reviewing episode, I believe, 6 of What If. So really marching along towards the end here.
Hell yeah.
This is the episode where Killmonger saves Tony instead of him being abducted by the Ten Rings. And quite an episode it was. What'd you think about it?
It was good. It held my interest, but it was not one of my favorites. But you, how'd you feel about it?
I agree. I wouldn't say it was one of my favorites. I was into it. I enjoyed it. I didn't. Going in, I really thought Killmonger was going to be a good guy. So shame on me.
Nope.
Shame on me, I guess.
That I feel like no, but that would have been interesting though. That would have been really cool. Not that this one wasn't interesting, but yeah, that's kind of what I expected too. And even I think I've said it before. One of the worst things about the Black Panther movie is Killmonger dying, because I think that he could have had a really cool redemption arc, and I thought maybe that was our opportunity to see it here in What If, and it wasn't. If anything, he was more of a villain in this one because of his newfound resources.
Yeah, the fact that he came out on top. Spoilers. He's much of a bigger deal here, but it was enjoyable. I think it was very similar to the Captain Carter episode in a way, because that one was very straightforward. There was a very obvious, again, we'll call it Nexus event. It was very in line with the Captain America First Avenger movie, whereas this was also very in line with the first Iron Man movie and that point in the MCU. So I did like it. Not one of my favorites, but not a bad episode by any means. So I guess I can run us down our quick synopsis, and then we'll riff and talk about some main points.
Let's do it.
So we open up in Afghanistan, just like in Iron Man 1. Tony Stark is ambushed by the Ten Rings, but is saved by Killmonger. The two return to Stark Industries, where Killmonger exposes Obadiah's involvement in the ambush before helping Tony build a humanoid combat drone using vibranium. They need more vibranium to create an entire army, so they arrange for Rhodey to purchase it from Ulysses Claw. Cool to see him back. Claw leaks word of the transaction to Wakanda to lure in T'Challa, who sort of ambushes them. Killmonger shows up, kills T'Challa and Rhodes, making it look like they killed each other. Stark confronts Killmonger using the drone, knowing that Killmonger was the one that killed both of them. But Killmonger defeats the drone and kills Tony, making it look like the Wakandan attack. Killmonger then kills Claw before reuniting with the Wakandans. Thaddeus Ross sends the completed drone army to attack Wakanda, but Killmonger leads the Wakandans to victory. Afterwards, Killmonger then becomes the Black Panther. The U.S. is preparing to send the Jericho missile to Wakanda to wipe them out. And then we finish our episode with Shuri in Stark's office, confronting Pepper Potts, who's been suspicious of Killmonger this entire time. They seemingly team up to try to expose Killmonger, and that is the episode. So, what do you want to chat about first, Jack?
Well, since we just talked about the ending, I just wanted to say this is, it's kind of another one where it ends on a more sour note. Not completely sour. They sweeten it up at the very end and say, oh well, I guess it's, they're implying that Shuri and Pepper are going to expose Killmonger, and it's going to be a happy ending, and that heroes are never really gone and all that. But they've already done that. They did that in the second one. They did it. They sort of tried to do it in the Doctor Strange episode. I'd have to watch the ending.
No,
of
that one was
that one absolutely bleak? Okay.
Yeah, I think they did that in episode 3, which is the one where all of the Avengers got killed by Hank Pym.
That's the one. Yeah, not the second one, the third one. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, but we got that in the zombie one. We got that in the third one. We got that now in this one. So it kind of is a common theme where things are so messed up and so different that heroes are actually dying, which is cool that they're committing to that and actually not tied down to keeping and preserving these heroes and really getting creative with the scenarios that they're putting out there. But yeah, it does seem like a theme where they end of trying to figure out a way to make it right, which I guess is cool, but then it just makes you want to see that story continue, which is how I
Yes.
felt here.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, by the time that ended, it was like, well, I actually want to see what happens, because I mean, they're going to expose him, but he's still Black Panther.
Yeah. It's
And
almost
there's
like you just cut out act 3 to this episode, right? Like what you've got is great, but like I want to see the finisher.
exactly, and so my whole thing is they're going to expose him, but this is the beginning of the MCU. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, Cap's on ice, and Captain Marvel's God knows where in space. But I
Hmm.
mean, is Banner even Hulk at this point, right? And if he is, he definitely can't control it.
Hmm.
Thor's not coming back anytime soon, so it's like this is like, who would stop him?
Yeah.
You know, I guess I could see Shuri creating some sort of technology, but that, I don't know. It's a weird ending for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I was trying to think. Where do you want to start? I guess because I've got a
Yeah,
couple notes, but I don't know if I want to dive into. I have a thematic note about sunsets, but I don't know if I want to. Well, okay, so
yeah.
I don't know if you remember from the they did a really good job of incorporating the theme of the Wakandan sunsets, which is something
Hmm.
that Killmonger's dad talked to Killmonger about in Black Panther movie, and they brought that back, and it was such a dramatic end because with at the end of Black Panther when Killmonger was defeated by Black Panther and was dying and finally got to see his Wakandan sunset. They just did a good job of incorporating that theme in this episode.
Yeah, it came up a couple times, and yeah, as we saw in the Black Panther movie, before he dies, Killmonger gets to see that Wakandan sunset, and that's
Hmm.
recreated here somewhat, except instead of being about to die, he's absolutely triumphant.
Hmm.
Um, it's yeah, I thought that's a pretty cool pickup.
It
I
was a
didn't
good
really catch
writing
that,
note. It
so
was it was
yeah,
cool that they put that into this episode.
I agree. I agree. You know what the the death of Tony Stark does is it dooms this universe.
Yeah, it
It's like
does.
in all honesty, and we can even rewind this to episode 3. Most of these episodes have killed off Tony in some way.
So I actually saw. I don't know if I shared it with you or you shared it with me, but I saw a meme that like after like in between the last episode and this one, it was something about like Tony Stark fans being really hyped for What If, and then it shows the clip from the third episode where he just gets poisoned and dies, and then the part in the fifth one where he's a zombie and he gets decapitated, and that's it. But yeah, this is the third episode where he dies.
It's yeah, you know, and for people that aren't really kind of catching what I'm dropping here, Tony snapping his fingers, that's the only scenario in 14 million scenarios that Doctor Strange saw where they undo what Thanos does. So,
Yeah.
so if he's dead, if we ever make it to that point, which I'm assuming we still would somehow,
Hmm.
it's like this. Well, it sucks for us, I guess. Hopefully, we don't get dusted, but it's yeah, it's kind of funny. It's episode 4, the universe we saw it completely cease to exist, and now we can assume that this one, the zombie one, and the one where the 5 of the 6 main Avengers die, that they're all just doomed.
Yeah. Yeah. He's kind of the crux of the MCU, surviving Phase 3.
Yeah, he's so important in the MCU. He's part of the Sokovia Accords.
Hmm.
He's a big part of Ultron. So yeah, that's another point, man. Um, if he's not around to create Ultron, that never happens. And then Wanda and Pietro, they never really, I guess, become good. They just sort of stick with Hydra, and
Hmm.
Vision never gets created.
True. Hmm.
What
That
a
changes Wanda's
drastically,
character completely.
what a drastically different scenario. Because I mean, this is the beginning of the MCU. I mean, obviously, like Cap is technically, but the Iron Man was the first movie. This is the first thing that we saw, and so it made it fun to watch some of those first scenes recreated in an animated form again.
Hmm.
Tony is so important to this universe, and killing him off right at the beginning of it, just it's a
Yeah. Do you
weird look.
think that? Do you think Nick Fury even has the Avengers without Tony Stark?
I mean, we know he had the idea.
Yeah,
Um,
he's got the idea, and he's got 5 out of 6. But damn, I mean, Tony was he's a big deal in that six.
he really was, and I mean, in Iron Man 2, they alluded to the fact that he wasn't going to be in it anymore. So I mean, obviously he did. He ended up being the big part of it, but who knows, man? Who knows, right?
Hmm.
It's hard to say, but it just this is a really good example of why Tony Stark is so important for the entire universe that we've been watching for the last 11 years.
Yeah. Well, there was never a. Yeah, I mean, even though they did allude to Tony not being fit for the Avengers, think of a what if scenario if he wasn't involved in the Avengers, and you've got the five, the Avengers, the Captain America, Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor. So picture them saving the day in New York, and Tony Stark is Iron Man and is there in New York when there's a portal in the sky. You don't think he's going to be a part of that? Like
Oh, for
there's
sure.
no scenario where Tony is not an Avenger, right?
No, of course I'm not saying that at all. I'm just
Yeah.
he's a big part of it, and even though they alluded to the fact that he might not join them, of course he would have been. Obviously, he's the one that saved the day on that
Mm-hmm.
episode, right? Or on that fight, that battle in New York, where he grabs the missile and launches it into space. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Tony is a big part of this universe. So um, yeah, it was cool to see the recreation of the first movie again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this episode covers a few movies because this one, I mean, this it's basically mixing the plots of the first Iron Man and Killmonger's plot in Black Panther.
About 10 years earlier than we would
Mm-hmm.
than what we're supposed to see,
Yeah.
which is another. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about this. I Do we know when T'Challa takes over the mantle of Black Panther?
See, yeah, that's something that I thought of too. I don't think that T'Challa would have been the Black Panther at this point in time. Like, I guess we don't have evidence to the contrary in the actual MCU, but it felt like he was new to being the Black Panther. Like his first appearance as the Black Panther was in Civil War. I guess we don't know that he wasn't doing Black Panther things in Wakanda. You know what I mean?
We don't, and that's the thing is the first introduction of T'Challa is at the embassy. It's blown up. Dad dies. He's on a bench with Natasha. It has
Hmm.
that quote, and then the next time we see him, he's in the suit. So, like, if you're watching it, it's almost implied that he decides to take up the mantle of Black Panther after the death of his father. But realistically, at his dad's advanced age, he is likely no longer the Black Panther. So, I think it does make sense that T'Challa would have been Black Panther all along.
Yeah.
We also don't really know his age. It's because, like, in the movies, he would seem to be 30, 35. So
Sure.
here,
Yeah.
he would be 20, 25 in this exact
Hmm.
episode. So it's like, if he's 20,
it's not too far off. I mean,
it's
it's
not.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that you had that thought because the timeline thought that I was trying to figure out was, is Killmonger old enough in 2008 during the events of Iron Man to be, this decorated war hero that he is.
Do we remember how old he was in Black Panther? Like
So
let me let's look this up
yeah,
real quick.
so the digging that I did is I just queued up Black Panther because I know it starts with a flashback. I didn't know when that
Yep,
flashback happened. It was 1992, and Killmonger's he he
he
looked
looks to
like
be
he was
between 5 and
maybe,
7.
yeah, I was gonna say 8 max. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna so let's just say he was born in '85. So yeah, by 2008, yeah, for sure, he would have been old enough.
I guess. Yeah.
Because if he was born in '90, in 2008, he would have been 18, old enough to enlist. He looks like he would be about 23, 24 here, I suppose.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
would make sense for him to be a decorated soldier.
Hmm. Definitely, more thought than we have to put into it. These,
Well,
and even go ahead.
no. I was just gonna say. I mean, it's a valid question, but we do know from Black Panther that Killmonger is decorated from Afghanistan. So
Yeah, that's true.
this at least makes sense that he would be there at the height of the
Yeah.
war in Afghanistan, right? So I think
Do you
that it
think
does
that
line up well.
do you think that behind the scenes, reading in between the lines, do you think that Killmonger in the actual MCU was instrumental in taking down the Ten Rings?
Well, they're not taken down.
I guess that's true.
There's still a thing in Shang-Chi.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you? Because they were they were never really taken down. I mean, they were Iron Man escaped, right,
Hmm.
and then went back and killed a few of them. But that
Hmm.
was kind of the end of that in that movie. We don't see them again until
So,
that
and
short movie.
maybe I'm foggy on details here, but the terrorist cell or whatever that kidnapped Tony was under the direction of Obadiah Stane, but it was a part of the Ten Rings. Like, what's the Ten Rings link here? Because,
I
geez,
think
there.
it's
I just looked out my window. There's a guy on the roof across the street from me.
oh gosh,
He's just running a
there's
leaf blower. Scared the shit out of
uh
me.
the I that's a good question because we know that the Ten Rings, as of now, today, 2021, having just seen Shang-Chi a few weeks ago,
Hmm.
it's a Chinese organization, right? It's it has nothing to do with Afghanistan almost. So
Hmm.
I wonder if it's being implied because we know that in Iron Man 3, Trevor Slattery was was pretending to be the Mandarin, a terrorist associated with the Ten Rings organization, but he was using what's the Winwoo's identity as the Mandarin, so to speak. I'm trying to connect the dots. My brain is just not working
Yeah.
too well.
No, I'm with you though. That's what I'm trying to figure out because, like, I feel like it would have it would have like it would have been simpler and easier for it to be for this terrorist cell to just go by the Ten Rings because they were inspired by like ideology. I don't know, because Trevor makes this complicated by being in Shang-Chi,
well,
I really need to see that movie again with a closer eye.
we what we know is Wenwu, Shang-Chi's father,
Hmm.
is the leader of the Ten Rings organization. It's named the Ten Rings because he has the Ten Rings,
Ten
right?
Rings, right?
And we know that he's mad at Trevor for using that personality and the name to further his whole thing, along with what's the guy's name in Iron Man 3, the villain? Is Adrian or
Oh no, I just blanked on it too. No, it's not. Aldrich Killian.
Aldrich Killian? Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he hires Trevor to be the Mandarin, to act and portray this character. And that's what made Wenwu angry. That's why they imprisoned him, right? So
Hmm.
it would seem that the Ten Rings organization that abducts Tony is not the actual Ten Rings organization. It's just impersonating the real one that is hidden away in
Yeah.
China. I think is what it is supposed to be. But
Okay,
they're
so
still
yeah,
calling themselves the Ten
I'll
Rings.
amend my question then, I guess. Do you think that in in the actual MCU, do you think that Killmonger was involved in taking down that terrorist cell that was calling themselves the Ten Rings?
I don't think so. I don't know why he would.
Well, I'm just thinking, like, timeline wise, there's something in Afghanistan that made Killmonger a war hero. Do you think that was it? I mean,
Maybe.
I don't remember if they said specifically in Black Panther what it was that he did to make himself so
Nope.
so known.
He has all these kills, and he's a very decorated soldier that
Yeah, is that
served
all they
in
gave us?
Afghanistan. Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. I'd have to rewatch the scene exactly, but it was very straightforward. They didn't mention the Ten Rings, if that's kind of what you're asking.
Yeah.
I feel like we would remember them mentioning that. That would be that's too big of a callback
Mm-hmm.
for that to not be a memorable thing, I think.
Yeah.
So it's interesting though. I mean, it is cool. At least this lines up and is logical. The fact that he was in Afghanistan, he would be there at that time. We know that in this specific scenario, like he infiltrated them and understood that Obadiah was working with them, and that's how he sort of exposes them. So, I mean, I'm glad that at least logically makes sense. There's been a few episodes now that I think you've picked up a few timeline errors, at least.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's watching with a critical eye.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Did you see the mid-season trailer for What If?
I watched it once. Why? What do you got for me?
Well, there's a lot of returning characters.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to see Captain Carter again. We're going to see Strange Supreme again.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like we might see T'Challa's Star-Lord again.
Yeah.
And then there was also a shot of Black Panther, which leads me to believe that that's Killmonger.
Ooh, I hadn't.
And there's supposed to be this big team up.
Yeah.
With Gamora, we see her. So I'm wondering. We know we have 3 episodes left now.
Yep.
If there's a team up episode, we would assume that would be the last episode.
For sure.
We would also, I would say it's probably fair that Gamora will still get her own episode.
I think so,
and I would
too.
say it might be the penultimate one, but I don't know what our next one would be, what our missing episode is.
I don't know. Let me, and I'm
trying
to do this on the fly.
Unless they're doing
I'm just going to scrub through the trailer.
Unless they're doing
a two-parter for a 2-parter for 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And you think that'll be a 2-parter with Gamora?
Well, I'm saying Gamora still gets her own episode, right? Because we have 6 episodes of 9. And so Gamora would be the 7th, and then 8 and 9 would be a 2-parter.
Okay, so you're thinking the 8 and 9 2-parter.
Maybe.
I gotcha. I'm scrubbing through the scenes of the mid-season trailer to see if I can find screenshots of what may be an episode.
And I couldn't pick out anything. I mean, I know that we saw Captain Carter interact with Strange Supreme. It just feels like if there's going to be this big team up and we're bringing all these characters back, unless that episode is longer than the 30 minutes we're used to getting, a 2-part episode makes sense for a full story to be told. And what if they're teaming up, right? What if they're teaming up against the Watcher?
Ooh. How would that go down? I don't know what I mean. So we don't really we don't know that much about the Watcher. I mean, that's a fair guess. We know that something's going on with the Watcher. They've made a point to have him more
visible.
More visible. Yeah. Which is kind of a strange. It's a strange thing that they're doing. I thought that it was really cool when you could see him in like the skylines of the first few episodes, but now he's like completely like you could see he's in color. He's there. He's not just narrating. He's talking. You know, his lips are moving. There's dialogue. We've even had him interact with Strange Supreme.
Exactly.
Yeah, that could be really interesting, but I don't know what the Watcher would be like as a fighter, as a villain, as you know, what can he do? I mean, we know that he won't interfere, but like once he does, what's his power?
Well, I mean, I've seen a few images of him in the comics, fighting. Looks like he has some sort of energy beams that he can use. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend. There's probably somebody
Hmm.
out there watching or listening that knows the Watcher, the ins and outs of him. It's like, you moron, that's not the Watcher. But
So
um,
write in,
write
leave us
in,
a
let us know
comment.
what he does,
We'll talk
man. Yeah.
about it. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting way for this story to go, because this show has kind of introduced the Watcher as a character of its own. So with the twist of it being with him being the villain, I guess for a what if, that would be pretty cool.
I agree. We'll see, though. It makes me excited that they're bringing some of these characters back because, like we talked about a second ago, these episodes end in a way where you're like, I want more. And if we are
Hmm.
going to get more, that's pretty rad.
And it feels like that's some of what this show is for introducing new characters, new ideas, new characters from different universes to see how they play into a bigger picture. Maybe this is that. We've
Exactly.
talked about maybe some of these characters, coming up down the line with multiverse stuff in MCU movies. But maybe this is that instead.
Perhaps. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Bit of
Yeah.
both, as
Yeah.
Marvel would say. Honestly, I think that's all I have on this episode. I mean, this was a good episode. It just didn't give us a lot really to talk about, I feel like.
Hmm.
Did you have any other notes in there you wanted to?
No, not really. That covered my notes. Like I said, I said at the top of the episode, it was interesting. It held my interest. It was a cool story. This was a good, fun what if to ponder. But it was um, not as big and memorable and groundbreaking and eye opening and jaw dropping as some of the other episodes. You know what I mean?
I agree. I don't think it was the best one. I think it was in line with the rest of them, though. I still feel like maybe the zombies one was my favorite one. The rest of them are all pretty comparable for me.
Hmm.
And this is, not bad by any means. I really enjoyed watching it. I think one of the things I really love about What If so far is that it's very in line with the MCU, and they're not. And
Hmm.
this wasn't just an animated show that is based on Marvel heroes, so to
Yeah.
speak, right? Instead, when you have like what DC does with their movies is so different from what they have in their animated movies. It's like
Yeah.
completely different. So I was a little worried that Marvel would do the same thing, but the fact that this is all very in line with the universe they've established makes me want to rewatch the movies every single time I watch a new episode.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this so far. We have 3 episodes left. We can sort of wrap that up once this season's up. Our final thoughts, but I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, and I think that what I've enjoyed the show a lot. I've loved some episodes, and this is one that I don't think that I love necessarily. I think that after time passes and after they're all out, this episode's probably one I'm going to forget about. If I'm being honest, if I'm trying to list the episodes or whatever, this is going to be one that I forget about.
Really? Okay. Well, hey, fair enough. I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more than you did, but uh, I was good, and I'm glad that we got it. I thought it was a cool story, a cool what if
Yeah,
scenario. So, all right. Well, that's it for us, folks. Thanks for sticking with us to the end. If you did, as you know, links to our social media accounts are in the show notes. If you want to support the podcast, the best way to do it is to share it with your friends. If you're on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. It would be so helpful. We really appreciate that. So thank you guys for listening, for supporting anything that you do. We appreciate it, for tuning in. You could have been doing anything, and you chose to spend half an hour with us. So thank you very much.
yeah.
Keep on keeping on.
All right, we'll catch you later.